Today, we're going on a journey into the epic story of ancient Greece. And believe me, this is way more than just ancient history. Their ideas about politics, philosophy, and even war didn't just shape their world, they literally built the foundations of ours.
To really get the Greeks, you have to start with their mindset. And Aristotle, well, he just nailed it here. For them, greatness wasn't some gift from the gods. No, it was something you had to work for, to cultivate through constant practice, whether you were a soldier on the battlefield, a citizen in a debate, or a thinker lost in thought. And that brings us to the big question for today. How on earth did this small collection of bickering city-states, kind of perched on the edge of the Mediterranean, end up having such a massive, lasting impact on, well, on all of us? So let's wind the clock all the way back, way back, to the very first echoes of Greek civilization, the Mycenaeans. Long before you get to the famous names like Athens and Sparta, it was the Mycenaeans who ran the show. These guys were a serious warrior society, no doubt about it. But their real, lasting legacy? It was the stories they left behind. These epic tales of gods and heroes, like the Trojan War, that became the cultural DNA for everything we think of as Greek. So, after the Mycenaean world kind of crumbled, Greece came back in a totally new form, a patchwork of fiercely independent city-states. And out of all of them, two major rivals would rise up and basically define the entire era. And this, right here, this is the heart of the conflict. You're looking at two completely different blueprints for how to build a society. Over on one side, you've got Sparta. They went all in on the collective, a tough, militaristic state built on pure discipline. And on the other side, Athens. They took a huge gamble on the individual, on freedom, and on a brand new, radical idea. Okay, let's zoom in on that Athenian gamble for a minute, because it really truly was a great experiment, and it's one that would end up changing the course of human history forever. That radical idea was democracy. Demos, the people, plus kratos, rule. Rule by the people. Now that sounds totally normal to us today, but back then, this was absolutely revolutionary. The idea that regular citizens should be the ones holding the power was just unheard of. Of course, we have to be honest here, their idea of the people was pretty narrow. It didn't include women, or slaves, or foreigners. So yeah, a radical idea, but definitely a limited one. And look, they didn't just talk the talk, they built a whole system to make it happen. You had the assembly, where any citizen could literally stand up and have their voice heard on the biggest issues. You had the council, which made sure the government was run by a rotating group of citizens, not some permanent ruling class. And the courts, they put justice right into the hands of your peers. It was messy, it was loud, but wow, it was a direct democracy in action. Now, what happens when you create this kind of environment, this climate of open debate? Well, it doesn't just change your government. It sparks an intellectual revolution, an explosion of ideas. You get thinkers like Aristotle popping up, using logic to question everything, even dreaming up a perfect state ruled not by the strongest warriors, but by the wisest minds, the philosopher kings. But that intense rivalry between Athens and Sparta, with two worldviews so completely opposed, it was a ticking time bomb. You just knew a catastrophic collision was coming. And the result was the Peloponnesian War. This was a brutal, ugly conflict that dragged on for decades. It wasn't just a war between two cities, it was like a civil war for the very soul of Greece. And it was a fever that basically broke the Greek world, leaving every single city-state exhausted and vulnerable. And the human cost, just look at that number. It's staggering. Between the nonstop fighting and a horrific plague that tore through the city of Athens, it's estimated they lost nearly a third of their entire population. The toll was just catastrophic. So Greece is on its knees. It's fractured, it's weakened, and right into this vacuum steps a new, ambitious power from the north. The age of the rival cities was about to come to a crashing halt, and a new one was about to begin, all shaped by one man, Alexander. And let's be super clear about what this meant. The entire political system that had defined Greece for centuries, that whole idea of the independent, self-governing city-state, it was finished. Kaput. That chapter of history was slammed shut. But this wasn't just an ending. What rose from the ashes wasn't a void. Alexander's conquest was the beginning of something completely new, the age of a Hellenic, or Greek, world. The culture that was born in those tiny cities, it was about to go global. Just look at the sheer scale of this. Alexander's armies marched across the entire known world. But here's the thing, they carried more than just spears. They spread the Greek language, Greek philosophy, Greek culture, all the way from Egypt to the borders of India. It was like a giant, unprecedented cultural exchange.
So, what was the ultimate legacy of all this? It wasn't just conquest. It was this incredible fusion. You had Greek culture mixing and mingling with the ancient rich traditions of Persia, Egypt, and so many others. It created this vibrant new civilization, the Hellenistic Age, that would shape the world for centuries and build the bridge that led right to the Roman Empire.
So, from warrior myths to democratic experiments, from a devastating civil war to a world-spanning culture, what a story, right? The Greeks handed us the tools of logic, of critical thought, the courage to ask the biggest questions about how we should live and how we should govern ourselves. Which, leaves us with one last thought. Are we still making good use of the tools they left behind?